the first on the list is the Mikko Rantanen stuff, and that he could be on the move again. And Frank Saravalli reported on his show, the Daily Faceoff podcast, that Rantanen could be traded due to a concern that he may not re-sign with the Carolina Hurricanes. And he threw out a lot of scenarios. And the first one that I found pretty interesting was a potential sign and trade because of that 8th year. And we've seen time and time again that the 8th year for contracts means a lot to players. Look at Matthew Tkachuk, for example. Pierre-Luc Dubois is another one that comes up to my mind first, but Rantanen being he's one of those wingers in the league that you don't find another Mikko Rantanen is. He's really good at what he does on the wing, and just I don't see why a team wouldn't want to give him that 8th year and pay him that extra dollar that he's demanding for it. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised if he gets moved again. I think realistically, Carolina will find a way to come to a deal with him. But I don't know what team would be interested to take him on.
Well, I know on the Daily Face-Off, when Saravalli was saying or throwing out scenarios, one of the biggest scenarios that he threw out was the possibility that Mikko Rantanen is signed and then traded to the Chicago Blackhawks, which I find really interesting given Bedard, like the whole rebuild with Bedard, and like they want to be competitive now. They have a decent enough team, but the biggest thing that is coming to light with the Chicago Blackhawks is they don't have that guy who's the number 2 to Mikko or to Connor Bedard, pardon me, and that could be Mikko Rantanen. And I think we're seeing a lot of what the Chicago Blackhawks should do. So maybe the Blackhawks could be that number 1, but Chris, do you think there's another team that could be at play for Rantanen should he not re-sign with the Hurricanes?
I mean, realistically, off the top of my head, no. But did anybody really see Carolina being the team to acquire him in the first place? So, I mean, who knows what could happen? The Blackhawks, I could see it. It'd be an interesting move. It'd be interesting to see what they give up to make that trade. But there's just off the top of my head no other team I can think of that I can see a trade with. I can see Carolina extending him.
Okay, like, do you think it's a 1-year deal or do you think it's a bridge deal of like 3 years? Just throwing out hypotheticals here.
I could see the I could see the 3 years. I could see a 3 year deal and let him play it out and go from there. And then maybe at the end of 2.5 years in that deadline, there's a move made.
Okay. And I say that because one of the things that I listened to on a podcast, it was the Ray and Dregs show. And Ray Ferraro brought up a really good point about how much the salary cap is going up. And we're going to see a player maximum contract be just north of $19 million a season. And another scenario that isn't too far fetched that Ray Ferraro brought up was we could see Rantanen sign a 1-year deal at 19 million or just north of that, just so they can have a little bit of extra time to figure things out. But one of the big things that he mentioned was, hey, we don't know what team that is with. Is maybe a team acquires his rights for a 4th or 5th round pick, and then they start the negotiation process after that 1-year deal is once that's signed. And could that be the thing that we see? I don't know, but that's kind of up to what his agent is able to help him with. And like, just from what I see and what you see, Chris, on the outsider perspective, I'm going to use the term outsider perspective as we're gathering a lot of this secondhand, I would say, but it's just one of those things where you look at it from where we are and you're like, oh, okay, a lot of smoke from this side, but then there's just a blaze on that other side. You know what I'm kind of trying to say?
I do. It's going to be an interesting trade deadline. I think if you add Rantanen's name back into it all over again, it's going to be even more interesting.
And another big player that's at play right now is Noah